Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Luminary Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Gayatri Sasikumar, and joining me today on the lounge is one remarkable guest. She holds Asia's record for being the fastest woman on blades in her category. She's represented India at the Asian Para Games. She's a national gold and silver medalist in 100-meter sprint. She speaks at boardrooms full of CEOs. She blogs, she dances, she laughs, and often. She does all this being a quadruple amputee. In 2012, she and her husband Prashant flew to Cambodia to celebrate their 4th wedding anniversary. She came back feeling unwell, and what started as fever became not one catastrophe, but a cascade. A rare aggressive bacterial infection that triggered sepsis, multi-organ failure. She lost her baby, lost consciousness over days, and then one by one, in the months that followed, she lost all 4 of her limbs. Today's conversation is an attempt to look at pain, at grief, at what we get wrong about disability, and at what it truly takes to build a life from inside out. Please welcome to the lounge, Shalini Saraswati.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the Luminary Lounge podcast, Shalini. Shalini, to begin with, before all of this happened, before the blades, before the races, and before the talks that you give in the boardrooms, who was Shalini? What was Shalini like?
It's pretty similar to the person that I am today. I don't think I've fundamentally changed. I was always loud. I was always boisterous. I was a nightmare for my parents when I was growing up. I don't think my teachers took very well to me. I was always the person that they want my friends not to hang out with. But I think I studied pretty well, so they didn't really have too much to kind of, really come back to you about. So I think I got away with most of school and college because academically all right. I've always been fun. I mean, I've always been the happy-go-lucky person. So I think I've not changed fundamentally as a person. Maybe what I've gone through has made me a lot more aware and of life, and it has made me hold on to things a lot more dearly than I probably would have otherwise, if that makes sense.
I'm curious to know, you said you were very notorious and your parents had, trouble with you. So give us some example.
So basically with 3 children, right? Like my sister, my brother, and then me. So both my sister and my brother are the quieter ones at home. And they're both homebodies. And I'm like the other end of the extreme, right? So the black sheep, literally and figuratively. So I was never in the house. I always had like a whole bunch of friends coming to my house or me going out. Me, my sister, and my brother would get down from the same bus, evening when we would come back from school and college. My sister and brother would reach home and I would take another 40-45 minutes before I got back home. So I think like from a when I mean a nightmare, I think in those days I wasn't like the traditional girl, and I think I'd give a lot of kudos to my parents for letting me be the person that I was. I went to a girls only school, and that's probably the only reason why I have girlfriends. But otherwise, growing up, I grew up in the DRDO quarters, which is the government one. So all my friends were boys. I only hung out with guys. So I would be, I would play basketball with the boys. I would play football with the boys. There used to be this place where all the worst boys in the colony would sit. And my dad would come back from work and his daughter would sit right at the center of that, and it would make it so angry. So I just think like those kind of things. I don't think I was like, that in Malayalam they say adakkam odukkam types. In retrospective, I think that was a good thing to do, and I'm so glad that my parents never ever kind of told me that I had to be this particular person or anything like that. So I think maybe it was the amount of trust that we had for each other.
Were you the middle child in the house?
No, I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Shalini, so I want to go back to your Cambodia trip. You just had a celebratory vacation. When you're coming back on the flight, was there even the smallest inkling that something is wrong?
No. I think like when I was in Cambodia, I was feverish and I remember having a bad stomach, but I had eaten a lot of crap as well during the trip. So I really put it down, and I did feel tired during that trip, but I didn't really think through too much about it. I remember just one day where I was in the hotel and I said like, I don't think I can get out, but then I just went back. All right. And then I came back, went into work for a whole month or more. So I came back to work and I had one of the biggest client visits that I had to put together. So I just went back straight into work and all of that. So no, nothing at all.
So like you said, after you came back for a month or so, you were absolutely fine. And that's when, and then you had the fever.
I came back and I figured that I was pregnant. So then I put the tiredness and the fever to the pregnancy.
Okay.
But at work and all of that, I was eating fine. I my mother was like, I didn't throw up, so I don't think y'all are going to throw up.
Yeah.
So I didn't really there was nothing at all in the system. I just remember like before I actually fell sick, where I was at work and I felt really tired and I left work early, and that was the last ever time that I went into work, at least that place. And I remember even saying bye to everyone and getting off and going home. And Prashant was traveling. He wasn't there. So I went home. I was tired. I couldn't cook. I called my father-in-law and I said, can someone just send me some rasam rice? And I had rasam rice, went to sleep. And the next day when I woke up, I still felt like I wasn't great. And that's when I called my parents and said, listen, I'm sick. Like, would you guys come over? And then we called Prashant and Prashant came down. By that time was when I was beginning to feel like I was very tired and all of that. And we went into the doctors and the doctor said it's probably just the pregnancy that you're feeling like that. And we went back home and he said, we'll see how that goes. And then like I got really bad, but I just didn't have the energy to get up. And we knew something was wrong. And we went back to the doctor and we did the first round of blood tests. And the platelet count had really dropped. So when I got admitted to the hospital as well, the doctor said it's most likely dengue or malaria. So, you'll just probably need to get admitted for a few days. And so my friends, my friends and us had planned forever that Goa trip, right? And that was exactly when the Goa trip was supposed to be. And I almost went for that trip because I was like, chuck it. Even if I'm sick, it doesn't matter. Like we've been planning this for like centuries. But for whatever reasons, like they all went away on that trip and I didn't. I think the first day, like they were like doing the blood tests and I think I had a really uncomfortable night. And then the doctor said that they were moving me to the ICU. I remember going into the ICU. I think there were a lot of people who were unwell around me and I was wondering like, what am I doing? Because I felt okay. And I just thought that the doctors were overreacting to this whole situation. And yeah, so that is it. So I remember being at the hospital and that's about it. And then I don't remember pretty much anything after that.
So you went into a coma and when you first woke up, what was the first thing you registered about what was happening to you?
Like I remember like there are some glimpses, right? Like I remember like when I kept opening my eyes, there's this nurse sitting in front of me and she's writing these notes. And I kept thinking like, what is she writing for the longest time? Because every time I opened my eyes, she would look at me and she's writing notes. I'm like, what's up? Like there isn't really so much to write about. So strangely, the day I did wake up was my birthday, which is the 5th of April. So I remember waking up and I knew I was in the hospital, but in my head, I didn't know those 7 days, 8 days had passed.
I was just going to ask you, so how long were you?
8 days. Okay. So in my head, I was like the previous day and then I'm waking up the next day. And I think Prashant came in and it was my birthday, so he was giving chocolates to people around and whatever. And at that point in time, so this is like a really strange story. I don't know if I should be saying this to you, but okay, I'll still tell you. So in my head, I've had these dreams, right, when I'm in my coma, and okay, this is going to sound really crazy. So in my dream, I had this great dream of just being in like white light. Okay, this is so pseudoscience, and somebody's going to write me off. So this is just like white light, like, okay, and then I can much before that, like I kind of felt like I was being in a flight. Okay. And I can hear the doctors and nurses, and I can hear Prashant's voice as well. So in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, they're taking me by flight to a foreign hospital.
Okay.
And then then there's a lot of white light. And in my head, I'm thinking like foreign hospital, very clean.
White, right?
White. So I'm thinking like, all right, then I know then we're coming back from the flight. And in my head, I'm thinking about my passport because who'll put seal? And then somewhere along the line, I know that there's conversation about passport, and then they're saying, put everybody's seal in Shalini's passport. So in my head, I have a problem with it because if I travel again, they'll ask why so many seals in my passport. So when I woke up, the first question I asked my husband was, where did we go? And then he's like, oh, we didn't go anywhere. And I'm like, no, tell me where we went. And then he said, we went to Cambodia. And I'm like, don't be stupid. Then I'm like, get my passport. I want to see my passport. Because I wanted to be sure that my passport did not have other people's stamp. So for all you know, this could have been like, whatever the books talk about, people going to heaven, touching the line and coming back.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I just feel that I am so rational and logical that I have constantly rationalized everything that has happened.
Even the white light.
And the white light. So maybe, you saw God and then you came back. I don't know if it was God or not. And after that is when the infection in the hands and legs happened. I think it's only the next day that I notice, I don't even think I noticed it like that, or I did, I can't remember, but where the whole hands had turned a dark blue black and there was like these massive swelling in both of my hands and legs. And I think I had at the ICU, I had the doctor that came in and I was asking them like, because I knew I was pregnant, so I didn't know what had happened to the child. And then they kind of scanned me and they said, listen, I don't think that's there either. So then I had to go in to get a DNC done. And when I went in, that was kind of painful as well because, I was just so swollen up and then the movement kind of really hurt me. And I remember at that point in time, I was asking for like drugs and all of that in the hospital because I was in so much of pain.
Were you able to comprehend what was happening though? Like, were you
then they moved me from so in the ICU, I told the doctors that, I think I needed to be out of, because I didn't know what it was, right? I told the evening doctor that the morning doctor said I could go to the ward, and then I told the evening doctor that the morning doctor said I could go to the ward. So between them, I guess they kind of got me to the ward. It's only after I came to the ward and then my family kind of filled in the gaps about what had happened. And that was when I knew, I'm like, oh my God.
This happened.
And I was like, why didn't anybody take pictures? And they were like, don't be ridiculous. And that's when I guess I kind of knew that I was more aware of the hands and the legs and that there was no movement and I was bedridden and things like that. But and then I think I had like the psychiatrist at the hospital who came in and had this conversation and told me that there's a very likely chance that I might have to lose all my limbs. But I remember being very cocky with him, which is stupidity in retrospective. I just guess I didn't think it was going to happen. I just thought that there was going to be a miracle out there. Or like, you live in this time, like it's ridiculous that you would get fever, go into a hospital and have to lose all your limbs, right? That's so bizarre.
You just thought probably that everyone around you was overthinking and overreacting.
Yeah, like, and it doesn't happen to you. Like it happens to some random person that you read about. So, yeah. And that was how then I think I was in the hospital for about 20 odd days or so. And then we said we'll give it a shot and we'll see how things are. But I knew that my hands and legs were kind of infected. We went home and then there was gangrene and the pus and the this and that. And for a while, we met multiple doctors. I think we were borderline quackery at that point, right? Like, and this is where I think sometimes when you look back and you see like these babas and all of them that give you this miracle, and you wonder like, how do you believe in something as stupid as that? Right? And I think that's what this journey taught me, that when people are really desperate, they will hold on to anything that comes their way. Even it can be the most illogical thing, right? Like somebody told us like every week we need to go to some temple and give 1 kg of cow's ghee. We did that for some 20 weeks. Ridiculous stupidity in retrospective. We could have given that ghee to some other poor people and it would have been, but that's what it is, right? Like when you are so hopeless that you will hold on to any sort of thing that comes your way. So I think like we did everything, right? Like we did homeopathy, allopathy, whatever, some therapies. So they were we tried everything that came through. But I also remember that I would go to the hospital and have the infected parts cut off me as well. And I would do that week on week. So there were multiple things that I did. And then, of course, being Malayali, I think we were told about Ayurveda, and we met this doctor in Palakkad. And his name was Swami Nirmalanandagiri Maharaj. And then we met him, and then he saw me and he said, Mole ellam marum, which basically means you'll be fine. But it's also, marum also means change, right? So I guess it's a fundamental truth that life will change. So we tried that. And for a bit, I think things began to look better. Like the gangrene went away, the pus formation stopped. And I went back to work. About 3 months later, I went back to work because I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I started working from home. And I was on my laptop doing calls. So that's how I managed to fracture this hand the first time around. So this one went in March of 2013. And this one just fell off one day into my brother-in-law's hand. And I think that day when we lost both the hands was when we knew like there was no real point in waiting anymore, because I think we were always gunning to save at least one hand, because we knew that the legs were replaceable. So once we lost the hands, then we said, okay, there's no real point. And then in September 2013 we amputated both the legs.
Remember something that you said in an interview when you were losing your legs, you painted your nails purple. That's such a defiant thing to say outwardly, but what was happening inside? Were you was the same conversation happening inside as well? That
I just felt like I knew my legs were gonna go. So it's like, and it didn't have nail polish on it for a while. So I just felt like I owed that much to my leg, if that makes sense.
So we're talking about faith and how when we feel hopeless, we go on to believe in the babas and the giving ghee to the temples and all that. But for you, I've heard you say that you believe in positive energy, right? And if you have positive energy, you get that back. So for you, when you were going through all this, when you lay in the hospital bed, what was that one thing that you reached out to that gave you strength?
I don't think, like I said, like there's no one definitive answer to that. I think there were multiple things. I think I had an extremely strong support system. We were each other's strengths. So I think that worked. And I think as a family, our conversations was that, yes, this is tough, but we will get through this no matter what. So I think that kind of conversations really helped. Like I was telling you about Swamiji as well. Swamiji had this huge, he was so positive. Like he would come in, I would just see him, I would cry for hours, and then I would become fine for some time. So I just think like that him coming in and having those conversations with me really helped. I had my friends that were there through this entire process. And then I think we had, and then like, I think like it's also the same personality issue, right? Where we kind of will, no matter what, we'll be okay with this kind of situation. That no matter what, we'll kind of get through this kind of conversations that we had. So I think there were multiple things that came through. And I think like even the discussions that Swamiji also had with me was always to say, remember, what you put out is what you're going to get, right? So if you're going to be negative about this, then you're not going to get better. So he would also tell me things like, be very careful about who's coming to visit you as well. So he would say that even when somebody comes in and says that, oh my God, that's so sad this happened to you. He was like, that is not even the energy that you want. Because, they're not being bad about it, but that energy is going to affect you. So you don't really need that. So I think during that time, we were very conscious about who were the people that we let into our lives. We didn't have random people who, relatives who would come and see me. We were very clear about that. So I think we kept our circle very tight of people that we knew had the best intentions and that conversations were positive. And like, I have some of the best girlfriends. So, I had someone visit me every single day for the 1.5 years that I was bedridden. I couldn't go out. So the parties came to my house. They would come, there would be get-togethers, there would be all of that at my place. So they just made sure that I wasn't really left out of that. I read like my life depended on it. Because I just felt like, it was better to, people would ask about what was like the most intelligent book you read. And I was like, damn, like I didn't read any self-help books during that time. I was reading 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. Right? Like, so I just read books like my life depended on it. I began to write during that time. That was when I started to blog because I just felt like there was a place to vent it out. I started to write like really dark poetry at that point in time because it helped me put a place to put all of my darkness in. I began to learn classical music during that time because I knew that was something that I could do. So I just think like we consciously tried to keep me alive, not just physically but mentally as well. I think our entire support system kind of worked to make sure that happened. So I don't think there was like one definitive like hope or things like that. Like on like I felt like there was science and medicine on one side, then there was religion on the other side. And I think it's also an important lesson, this stakeholder management. We had multiple stakeholders, and I probably think why we didn't get resolution at any point in time, because we had babas in our house, we had pastors in our house, we had the puja, everything. Like I think everybody went to like multiple temples. My friends' family had like, I don't think there was a single temple where they've not asked a mannat in. So I just think like we were hoping like something in the universe is going to help us out. I think just that. And then I had a friend of mine who went and met an astrologer, and the astrologer said that there is no anga vikalate in my apparent horoscope. We should sue that man. So that kind of gave me confidence, like okay, maybe it's not going to happen. Another astrologer saw my horoscope and very clearly said that there was no way that this woman could be alive. But yeah, like, so it's a potpourri of things, I feel.
Shalini, I find that a lot of, even now when you're speaking and when you've spoken before, humor plays a lot of role, right? So were you always, you said you were a happy person, but you always like there's somebody who would know to laugh at oneself. And
yeah, absolutely. I've always been funny, and I've always liked to laugh at other people. And like even like like I even when I was at my sickest time, I remember when I used to get my skin taken off for the infection, there was a guy next to me and who had come in for he was playing cricket and the ball hit his eyebrow. And I think there was a junior doctor looking after him. And then when the main doctor went, who was my doctor, first thing he screamed is, "Why do you shave his eyebrow off?" And I for the life of me, I couldn't get over it. So then we waited because I wanted to see this guy with a single eyebrow. So I just felt like, yeah, and I was the worst. I had 4 infected hands and legs, but yeah. So I had a lot of fun with that. Even that time, I remember someone asking me what happened to my hands and legs, and I told that poor woman that I was a victim of a dowry. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I said that I was.
Yes.
They put the cylinder on and switched and tried to kill me, and she was like, "Really?" She said, "What's happened to them?" I said, "They're in jail." And she's like, "Your husband's in jail?" I'm like, "Yeah." And Prashant is standing right there. She's like, "Who's this?" And I said, "That's my brother." So yeah, I've had, like, if you can't laugh at yourself and if you can't laugh at your own situation, then what's the point with living, right? Like, what I mean, it couldn't have gotten worse for me. So I really had nothing to lose.
Your husband Prashant says that you were the strongest one in the family, giving support to everyone, and did being constantly the strong person, the person who's always happy and joking about it, did at some point get exhausting to you?
Yeah, of course. I think there are times where you just want to, like, crash into a pile. And I think I do that from time to time, but it's done within 4 walls. Yeah, sometimes you don't want to be strong. Sometimes you wish you didn't have to hold the weight for everyone. But such is life. But I also think, like, I think all of them were strong in some form or the other, right? Like, I don't think it works in isolation. Like, I think sometimes we define strong as what? Like, not crying. And I think, like, being able to cry is the strongest way, right? Like, to be vulnerable. And, like, like, I've cried on stage multiple times, and I feel like that it takes a certain amount of strength for you to be able to do that. So I just feel like sometimes our definition of being strong in itself is so warped. Like, I feel like like my mom is one of the strongest people. So I think they all cried. Everybody cried, but they made sure that, and I think this was like a strange dance that we had, that none of us cried in front of each other. I think I was allowed to cry by myself loudly, and I was the only person that was allowed, but everybody else held it together in front of me, and they said that, listen, we'll get through this. But I think the conversations constantly was about that we'll get through this. That no matter what, like, Amma's constant thing was, you don't get
We
to
should
give
not
up.
accept
So I
defeat, yes.
think, just having those things, kind of thing. Like, I remember, like, even when I was, like, at my sickest, like, Amma said, "Nee vandi otikkanam keto." Like, you have to drive.
Yeah.
So I just think it's strange that she would even think of that. But I think those gave you kind of like these goals or things to work towards, or at least it gave you a sense of hope, or the whole thing about how life is going to somehow pan out.
I've heard about the airport story that you say, where your friends tell, sit on a wheelchair and we
Yeah,
get...
they're ridiculous. Yeah.
No,
I do
I have friends who are like that,
No, I think, like, my friends, I think that this whole, disabled world has been very eye-opening for every one of us, right? Even for me included, like, we don't have any sense. I was able-bodied all my life, so I don't have a sense of what it might be for a person with a disability to go through my life, right? Like, if I think about school or college, like, my classroom was always in the first floor, second floor, third floor. I never blinked an eye about it at that point in time, or even through college was on multiple floors. I remember at that point in time, there was this one teacher who had some kind of an issue. I don't know what it was, but for her class, we would all come down, right? And at that point in time, we were just, like, so bummed about it because we had to kind of switch between levels. But so I just feel like we get through life with no sense of what that life would be for a person with a disability. So I think this whole experience has been very eye-opening for me, for my friends, for my family. Because until that point in time, we never bothered if there was a building, if we had to climb up something on a first floor and it was inaccessible for a person with a wheelchair. That conversations never happened. Like today, my friends would get extremely pissed off if we were standing in a priority queue in the airport and there was an able-bodied person that jumped into that queue. I've seen my friends pick up a fight because it makes them mad.
Yeah.
So I just think it's opened up their life to disability.
Yeah.
On the other side, they also understand that it's a great life to have with me around, right? Like, because, like when they travel with me, we don't wait insecure. We don't have to wait. We don't have to do the whole 1.5 hour wait at the airport, right? We can go in and we can like whiz and get through in. We're always boarded in first. So we always get place for our luggage. So like some of my friends today say that, oh damn, like I have to travel to the airport. Like we'll have to go 2 hours early. Charles is not there. Because otherwise they don't have to kind of like wait, stand in the queues. So we traveled to Thailand, and then like they said like no, take the wheelchair. So we got on and then we got off and then I'm in the wheelchair and like it was it's visa on arrival, right? So we're in the queue, like we pushed through because there was a separate queue, and so I'm just sitting there having a conversation, and then there was another person with a wheelchair that got pushed ahead in front of me because obviously I think he was in a much serious situation than I was. And then my friends are like, can you stop smiling? Can you look sad so we can get through this faster? So I think like it's a good life. Like they figured like, they would like, I know my niece would say that if there's no parking, Kunya, get out of the car and like somebody's going to give us parking, or if there is cops ever stop us, then I'm always the one person that gets out of the car, because then the cops are like, madam, neev kutkoli, madam, neev kutkoli, madam. And like, we're like, no, sir. And then, so I've, my cousin and I got caught. He wasn't carrying his license. And then I got out of the car, and then the cops are feeling so bad about me getting out of the car. And they're like, no, cyber heltidare kutkoli. And I'm like, no, I don't want to sit. So, it's a good life.
So it's like a complete role reversal now. So you are taking care of all of that.
Yeah. So it's okay. Like, I think we kind of like this.
Shalini, when we were talking some time back, you said you were careful about the kind of people that came into your life because of some of the things they say, right? And that's something that we realize, that the conversation around people with I wouldn't say only disability, but anybody who's going through something, the conversation around, suffering is not something we're all probably good at, right? So I'd like to start off with health professional doctors, right? In the hospital, was there any instance where a health professional said something where it landed very badly in spite of their good intentions? Because a lot of times, even though we mean well, we probably don't know whether what we're telling is actually sitting well with the person who's listening.
When I was in the hospital, I knew that there were a lot of doctors that brought their junior doctors in to see me because I was a very one-off case. That felt slightly exhibitionist. But I also understand that it was a learning for them. So at some point in time, I wanted to charge them, right? Like pay me money to kind of see me. Was a good concept, but I don't think it would have flown very well. But yeah, like maybe that. But actually, like I've had, I've had some. I'm very, very grateful to all of the people that looked after me. I've had nurses that just kind of sat beside me and prayed for me. And so I just think like I've just had like a great experience with all of my doctors and all of my nurses, and even the ladies that look after me. I just I don't think I've had an instance where someone's been insensitive or I can't really remember.
When people come and say, God had a plan.
I hate that.
And everything happens for the good.
Stupidity. Yeah.
So how would And I'm sure a lot of people did come and tell you that.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Like, God had a plan, and God only gives to those so much that they can handle. Bhai, mere ko nahi karna. I don't want to handle.
Right.
You are so strong, so God gave this
and then
to
you come out of it stronger.
Yeah,
and
right.
This is
You just want to like strangle people and say like it's stupidity, and you deal with this. It's not. I just think like if you can't say something nice, just don't say anything. And there's also like this also the other thing, right? Like, oh, somebody, they'll give you a more worse scenario to make you feel better, right? Like, oh, this happened to this person and then they died, or give you this unsolicited advice about the treatment to the whatever. And I think probably that was why we kind of cordoned me off from other people to a large extent. But like, you'll have people at work. I think I've had more once I went back to work about, there was this person who had like a ligament tear, and I met up. So I was like, hey, so I saw her limping or something, and I'm like, what's happened? And she's like, oh my God, like I thought about you so much, and like you've been on my mind. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what? She said, no, I've had a ligament tear and I'm in so much of pain, and I was thinking about how you manage life. And I'm like, woman, like in my mind, I'm thinking like, did you just compare your ligament tear to an amputation, for heaven's sake? Yeah, so you just kind of like grin and bear with that. I think I get also irked by the other comment that if I were in your place, I would have died or I wouldn't have lived. Kind of comments, because you somehow then therefore mean that my life is not worth living as well. I think that comment kind of irked me, and I think a lot of this is more irritating when you start out, right? Like I remember like when I went to vote for the first time, and I walked into the thing and there was a whole bunch of women standing there going, and it got me so angry. I think like with Indians as well, we're very nosy. We want to know what happened, and I've had people that have just stopped me and asked like, what happened? And I'm like, dude, like I don't owe you an explanation. But I think like over the years, I don't no longer, it doesn't make me angry, and it doesn't make me feel that way. I know that it comes from a place of ignorance. I know it comes from a place of you not having seen enough people like me. You do not see people like me running on the roads. You don't see people like me having a job. You don't see people like me going out on a restaurant or having fun. You don't see a person like me going out to have a dance. And I remember someone sent me a text it was some random person on Facebook who texted me to say, I felt really sad when I saw you, but then I saw you have such a good time that I was a bit surprised. So I just think like it just comes from a place of people not knowing those people and not knowing what it is like to react to it. And it comes from a place of you not having enough information about my life or people like me. My classic example always has been like, if you wear spectacles, you're a person with a disability. But we don't blink an eye if our doctor or our nurse or our teacher wears a spectacle, because it's so integrated as part of our life. So I feel like if we had a world where your teacher came in a wheelchair or your doctor came in a wheelchair, then you're not going to see it very differently to that. Like, I think the classic has been like my friends' daughters or my friends' kids today. Like, they don't blink an eye when it comes to a person with a disability today, because they're so used to seeing Shalini auntie like that. And they would, and I think they even today, I think they just like look at someone and say, oh, she just lost one leg. Like they're to the point where they're insensitive to other people, right? So I think like that's the way it is. And yeah, like I'm no longer, I think I'm a lot more better with dealing with it right now.
When did you start running after all of this happened?
I didn't want to run.
I feel you. I feel.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was
like running
never
as
the
well.
plan.
Yes.
So I got prosthetics in October. My amputation was in September, October, November. November was when I started to train to put my prosthesis. And then I think I was up and about on my feet Jan, Feb kind of situation. And then I realized, like, I thought that I'd get the prosthetic leg and life would go back to what it was. And when I did, I realized that none of that worked. I struggled to like walk. I struggled to climb stairs. I struggled to sit in a chair and get off a chair. Like just some of the most basic things in life, and everything was a struggle. And I think that was when I had like a bigger breakdown, more than the actual disease, because I just felt like this is it. My life is done. So that was when then I started to kind of like I had this huge breakdown, and then it was Appa who said that let's first walk inside the house. So we would walk inside the house and we transitioned to the roads. But I just did know that I needed more help than that. And I didn't like myself when I looked in the mirror. I put on a lot of weight. I hated the person that I had become. And we went out for some bank work, and then we met a friend. We had biryani, and during that time we were having this whole conversation that I really needed help. And he said, listen, I had a ligament tear, but that coach really helped me out with it. Do you want to go see him? So, he called him up immediately, and that's how I met Coach Ayappa at KSLTA. And I met him, and he was very neutral, and now he tells me that he was absolutely in shock, but he maintained a good facade. And he said that, listen, I train professional athletes. I've never trained someone like with you. So, but come to the stadium and we'll see. So the intent when I went to the stadium was just to be able to go back to life as I knew it. So we just initially walked for the longest time, and to get the rhythm back and to be able to push myself. Somewhere along that we discovered we could run. So we were just very excited that we could do something that we thought was not possible. And then coach said we should try doing the 5 kilometers. I thought the man had lost his marbles, clearly. And I went away on a holiday. I came back. He said, you'll know what? We'll do 10 kilometers next year. And I said, sure, we'll try. And I just felt like we would reach a point where we would both agree that this was a really bad idea and this was not possible. But he pushed me and we trained for it. And I could do the 10 kilometers. The first time I ever did it was in Kanterwa Stadium. We had to do 25 laps around the track, and it was hard. It was so hard. And I couldn't. And he said, no, you won't. You have to complete. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But I loved how I felt at the end of it. Because somehow for me it became that if I can do this, then, the rest of my life is not so bad. And that's how then the TCS had happened. And at the same point in time, like this is like, I feel like the universe kind of aligning, right? And that was the same time the prosthetic guys gave me a call and said that, there is a couple of blades. Do you want to try them? And I said, sure, why not? Because until that point in time, they were not willing to give me the blades.
So you started running on your
normal
prosthetic.
Yeah. I mean, not these, but yeah, similar.
All right.
And because they had fitted out prostheses for single leg amputees and they were falling. So they were so worried that I didn't even have anything to break my fall. So then I got like the free prostheses from them because they were willing to try it out on someone. So I tried them. I love them. And then like this, so the whole thing became about, and then it became like a media thing. And I had like the interview, somebody came, interviewed me, blah, blah, blah. So in my head, I'm thinking, I remember walking into stadium and people had newspapers at the stadium and they were like, Akka, you're in the paper. And I'm like, yeah. So in my head, you're thinking that it's sports news, last to last page, small thing, whatever. And that was when I'm like front page Times paper. And then that was when it struck me that, oh, damn, this is a big deal. Because maybe for most people, they were looking at it as a quadruple amputee running the first 10 kilometers. Like in my head, I'm not seeing myself that way. For me, I just feel like if I was able-bodied, it would have been something that I might have done. Me not, but I might have. So I just felt like that I didn't really see the big deal with it. And then we trained and we ran the race. It was a media frenzy. I almost didn't finish the race. I really had to push myself through that race, and I really had to. I think that thing was when I really questioned why I was doing what I was doing, right? Because for me, that race became about that if I can do this, you can do this successfully, you can deal with the rest of your life. And that was the only reason how I got through the finish point. And then, of course, I went to the hospital, I threw up on the doctor, and we did all of that. And that's how then running came. And, then we did it. I did a terrible job the first time I raced. I did it in 2 hours and 5 minutes. And I in my head, I wanted to do it in the 1 hour 30 window.
This was 10K?
10K.
10K.
Yeah. So then I said I had to redeem myself again. So we said we'll run the next year. Then we did that in 1 hour and 35. And by the time I'm enjoying this, like I really liked the running. I really enjoyed it. It somehow made disability okay. It somehow was a way for me to take control back of my life. It was my version of showing the middle finger to the person up in the sky. Right? That you cannot take all of that away from me. So it pretty much became that, I think. And then I, of course, enjoyed it. I loved going to the stadium, like the whole early morning, the sunrise, the kids in the stadium. And then I think, like, you're with kids half your age. It's a great environment. Coach was fantastic. And then coach said that, we'll do professional athletics. Again, I'm like, I didn't see this happening, but I said, sure, why not? So we did I did my first nationals in 2017, and I came in at a bronze. So I'm thinking, oh, not bad. But to be fair, like I was the only woman on blades. I was running with women with congenital deformities. So it felt okay. And then we said, okay, we're going to get better. And then we trained, and we got better. Yeah.
I just want to ask you, why the blades? Like, why were they trying to check out on the blades? You say the prosthetic company were
because they had still not launched in India people on blades.
Okay.
Right? This was them testing their product and seeing if somebody in India was interested in wanting to try.
But it's not easy to stand on them, is it?
It just looks, so I've always described the best way for you to maybe feel how it is it's like wearing like a really 6-inch, 7-inch heel and then standing on a trampoline. That's the way a blade feels.
Yeah.
But like maybe because I'm bilateral, it's a lot more easier for me because it's equal on either side. I'm not struggling for that. And I don't know. I have never, in my first few years of running, I have never ever fallen. I fell much later when I got into professional athletics. But I have never fallen. So I just took to it like a duck to the waters. I don't know. Maybe it could be that I was a dancer. Rhythm came automatically. I don't know. Maybe there was just so many things that worked in my favor. Probably being the bilateral, having almost equal stumps. So there was no disparity whatsoever. So I think there was a lot of things that worked in my favor from that perspective. Yeah.
Shalini, you in one of the interviews you said Paralympics is a sport, and we're there to be a part of that sport, and not to inspire you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just listening to a podcast by the late disability activist Stella Young, who calls it inspiration porn.
Yeah, she's a New Zealand woman.
Yes. The idea that disabled persons, lives are consumed as motivational content for able-bodied people. Is there a difference between inspiring someone and being reduced to an inspiration?
Okay, so this is what I feel always, right? Like I can, it's not just people with disabilities, like people across the walks of life can inspire you.
Yes.
But that inspiration can only take you so much, right? I can be inspired today by you, but it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable model. I think the problem becomes when people with disabilities are given credit for just existing, right? Like, I find that so random. Like, I'm just standing there talking to someone, and someone would tell you you're so inspiring when you have no idea about what I have done or anything, which I think kind of brings me to a currency of just the disability, right? Like, I would go running in the park, and I would have so many people that come and say that, oh my God, you're so inspiring. And I'm just like, there are 1,000 other people running in the park. You're not saying that to anybody else. Yes. I get it that you don't see enough people like me on the roads. But I just feel like sometimes, even like going to work, or I remember being in a lift one day at work, and there was this man who came into the lift. He looked at me, and then he did that, and he wanted to touch my feet, and I freaked out completely to say, like, why?
Yeah,
like, why? There are times when I run that I know that people stop with their hand and they do that whole prayer. I don't know if they're praying for themselves or for me. I'd like to believe that they're praying for me.
Which is good.
Which is good, yeah. But there's this whole thing that happens. I just feel like, if I just went to work, or I lived my life to the fullest, that is what every one of us are doing. Fundamentally, there is no difference between you and I, right? What you want from your life is what I want from my life, right? You want to work, you want to make a living, you want to look after your family, you want to look after your loved ones, you want to take a vacation if possible, you want to go to the movies if possible, you want to lead a good life. Those are exactly the same things that I want from my life. It's no different whatsoever. So I just don't get it why I am being given kudos for doing the same things that you do. Except, of course, I feel like we are disadvantaged. Living in India is far, I feel like today the para athletes that have got medals in India have gotten those medals in spite of India, not because of India, right? So I just feel that's what it is. So even when you're talking about para sports, it's looked hugely as inspirational, but these are just such bloody good athletes, right? There is no other word to describe them, right? Like, some of the athletes that run today run far better than able-bodied people, right? The time my category woman runs as 11.6. That is not something the Indian able-bodied athletes run today. So I just feel like, what are you being like? It's not, she is just a good athlete. Forget the disability. They're there just on the credit of the fact that they're just very good athletes.
Yeah.
Right? It's got nothing to do with their disability. So it just makes me angry when that whole bit happens. And like I said, right, like, and I think the problem also becomes for the person with a disability today, that today you are only that there's so much of this inspirational stuff that's happening, that we're putting pressure on the persons of the disability also to get into a sport, to climb a mountain, jump off a hill. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody has to be a sports person. I find that even the disabled people is a struggle for them, because they just feel like, I've met so many people today that says, like, can I get into a sport? Maybe that's not even your area of interest.
Yeah.
Right? But the flip side is that doing that allows you to get a job, financial independence, things like that, which I understand to a large part. So a lot of the para athletes today that come into the national sport today, I know a lot of them do that because they know they can get a job through that, which is financial freedom and independence. I get that. But I think we need to just normalize disabled people going to a job. And, so we're not necessarily putting even unnecessary pressure on the persons with a disability that they have to be spectacular and they have to be different. Just like how we don't expect everybody that is able-bodied to be a Usain Bolt, right?
Shalini, but I'd like to differ here, because I think we as a society put pressure even on our
Able.
children and able-bodied people, and we are also expected to climb mountains. And I think it's just the way it's become, probably because of Instagram or social media.
True. I think with persons with disability, the image is stark. Right?
Yeah.
You either have a very sad looking person sitting in a wheelchair, or you have Arunima Sinha on the Mount Everest. There is no in between. And I think my problem lies there.
Yeah.
Right? That you're either expecting you to lead the sad, woeful life, or you're inspiring someone.
Yeah. So what's next for Shalini?
Retire.
And do what?
I don't know what I want to do. Honestly, I don't know. I like to have little goals in my life. So the sports was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do Asian Games. I got there, did it. I'm happy I got there. It's a bummer that I didn't win a medal. But I'm also very, very, very proud of myself to get to that point. I got to that point in my 40s. It's, I became an athlete in my 30s. I've defied age, genetics. I don't have, on either side of my family, my paternal or my maternal, we don't have a single sporting gene in my body, in our family. I played football and things like that because I had guy friends, but that was about it. So there was nothing that is there from a sports standpoint at all. So to get to that point and to be good enough to qualify, I thought was good enough for myself. I did high rocks this year because it was something I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I think I'll come up with something that I want to do, that is different, or that's something that I'll have to learn, redo, because high rocks was completely different to athletics. I had to train very differently. I had to do a lot more of weights. I think I was the first quad amputee to do it. So that was good. I did that in April. So now I'll like have a few lazy months, and then decide what I want to do next. But I've discovered that I like running. I like that space. It makes me happy. So I know that I will still go for a run ever so often because in some ways I think it's trauma response, or it's I think sometimes it's just that sometimes when you've gone through so much of trauma, being able to push your body as much as that much is your way to deal with that trauma. So I think so this is my trauma response. But it's also my happy place. Like I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I like how I feel after a run. I'm terrible when I haven't run for 2 or 3 days. So I know that's the place that I will be for however long my body allows me to be there. But otherwise it's going to be like small goals that I want to achieve. And the larger goal is to always just be happy and content. That's the underlying principle.
Shalini, I want to ask you one question. You were given a 3% chance of survival, and you made it, right? And when you beat those kind of odds, does survival feel like a gift? And does it ever feel like I would say burden? Like as in you feel like you owe something to the universe?
No, I think I would have, in retrospective, I feel like I would have been, it would have been easier for everybody around me if I just kicked the bucket.
No.
I feel, like now I've accomplished whatever I have. But I think like the first few years was really difficult for everyone around me.
Yeah.
So I do, because there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of pain to go through, physical pain, right? So I think like we put everybody through a lot that they had to deal with. So I feel like maybe like if I had just kicked the bucket, I think, it's not like they wouldn't have been sad or anything like that. But I think like, it's over in one shot. Right? And then it's, you'll still miss the person and whatever, but then you pick up and move on with life. But I feel like then it became like they had to live with it for a really, really long time. So I think that is probably like a tough one. So I today also, I feel like it would have been fine kicking the bucket. Absolutely. I wouldn't have regretted it. But are you really? But the fact that I stayed and I feel like how my life has turned out, of course, I'm very grateful for how my life has turned out. And, there's so many things that have worked very well for me, whether it was the sports, whether it was getting into the motivational space and being a speaker, to being able to still have a career that I wanted to, doing the things that I want to. So I'm absolutely grateful for what I have had. But I also feel like a lot of that is also a function of some of the privileges that we have, right? Like, me being in a city, me having access to a hospital, me having access to doctors, me being able to afford those things, being able to afford prosthesis. It's not something that a lot of people can have to turn their life around. So I think I was perfectly stacked that way from a perspective. And I also think, like, being English speaking, I do know that speaking comes very well to me. So I think all of that worked to my advantage. Like, there are a lot of para athletes who are far more talented and have got far more medals than I have, right? But I feel sad that they can't, they can't become a speaker today because they're not English speaking, right? So I just feel like there are so many things that have worked in my favor. I feel like today maybe I'm in a space where I don't want to say that I'm here to inspire people, but I just feel that maybe, like, I sometimes make you feel less miserable about your lives, or the fact that that people can take something back and say that maybe I can deal with this. And that has happened to me when I did my first ever talk. I remember there was this bunch of girls who waited till everybody had finished talking, and the girl came and said, is it all right if I give you a hug? And I said, of course. And she gave me a big tight hug for very long. And she said, I'm going through something really bad in my life, but after hearing you today, I feel like I can go back and deal with it. So that kind of like clicked something in my head to say that sometimes this is for other people far more than for your own self. And like, I think if you can even change one person's life, I think you're good with life. It's a big honor to be able to do that.
So I've got 3 quick rapid fires before the last 2 questions. What is a belief you once held that no longer holds true today?
That God will help you. God doesn't.
What does strength mean to you now compared to before everything happened?
I think strength is the ability to cry.
You just said that.
Yeah,
yes.
The ability to cry. It's strength is being vulnerable. Strength is feeling like shit every single day, but still getting up and go.
How has your relationship with fear changed?
I think it's I think I don't really live in a lot of fear today because like, what more could go wrong with me? And like, this is like how my niece always says me, like, Kunya, like, everything has already happened, so I don't think anything more worse can happen with you. So I think that's a good way to look at it, like, somehow that the worst has already happened. So maybe there's nothing more, but I guess maybe we shouldn't say such things out loud also, because the person, they'll be like, oh yeah, so yeah, so I think maybe not. No, I don't. It doesn't hold as much fear as I have in the past. I don't fear failing anymore. I don't fear not doing, like, I think that I'll give all that credit to sports, because it really taught me to lose. It taught me that you can't win every single day. It's taught me that you could have trained like hell, you could be in the best of your form, and you could have a terrible race day. So I just think, like, that it's taken away those fears away. I think the only fear that I have today is of like, when I'm much older, and all of the people that I know have died, that who's going to look after me. I think that's the only fear I have right now. Like, not sure how we're going to get through that. But
I think from what I've heard, you're taking care of all of them.
Yeah, like I don't know, like physically look after me. I can look after emotionally after people, but physically is not the easiest thing.
If there's someone listening to this right now who's in their own, dark times, maybe it's a diagnosis, a loss, or a life that didn't go the way it's supposed to, what do you want them to feel when they finish listening today? And if you could say one thing to them, what would it be?
Like there's always light after the darkness. And, just holding on to that is going to get us through with life. Like they say, like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you appreciate the light a lot more once you face the darkness as well. All of us have our own journeys, and I feel like all of us have a fair share of things that do not go our way. Right? I don't think there's a single person in this world who will put their hand up and say that my life has been just great. All of us have things. I think some of us get it in more degree than the others. And that is life, right? Like if everything was great, then we wouldn't appreciate what we have anymore as well. So I just feel that I know it's tough, but we don't have a choice but to hang in there. And just hope that you will get out of it. And then you'll be able to rise through it, and you're going to look back at this and be able to have a laugh about.
And finally, Shalini, if you could go back and whisper just one thing to the woman sitting in the flight back from her Cambodia vacation who doesn't know yet, what would you say to her?
Maybe do that Goa trip before all of this happened. See, like I just wish I traveled a lot more with my girls. I just missed not doing. I mean, we do that now, but I still feel it's not the same. Right? So I just, I wish I had been able to travel when I was able-bodied. Just from the perspective of being able to do things that I wanted to do. Yeah. I mean, I still do a lot. I don't want to be ungrateful. I still do a lot of the things that I do, but I just know it would felt different. But I don't think I would regret anything, or I don't really. I don't feel like somebody did ask me that, would you go back and change any part of your life? And I would say no to that. Other than just maybe having one hand. Like I would have wanted one hand. Even the left would have been fine. But just it would have made life easier from just the day-to-day part of life. I'm fine with the rest not being there. But I don't think I would have redone my life in any form or fashion. Yeah.
Thank you, Shalini, for joining me today on the lounge.
We're done.
Yes,
Okay.
we're done. And thank you for your honesty, for your humor, and for trusting us with your story. And to all our lovely listeners, thank you for listening in. I hope this conversation stayed with you in some way. Until next time. Thank you.
Go faster. Keep going faster. That's good. Go faster. Pull your knees up.